Hi. This next episode may be one of the most anticipated episode. Once I told my friends that I was going to do a show on founder's journey, and one of the guy that stood out was Sanu. And a buddy of mine, Tim Lovey, was like, "You got to be Sanu, and you got to see what he's working on." This guy is a serial entrepreneur, a math scientist, launched six companies. One of the company was valued at $5 billion. Already launched another one. So I was like, whoa, I'm looking forward to this one. So I hope you enjoy, and make sure you end up following Sanu and along his journey. Hi, welcome to this episode of Founder's Journey. And today we have a special one. We have an incredible guest I'm super excited to bring to you. Introduced by the mutual friend, Tim Lovett. Thank you for introducing us. And today we have Sunil Madhu on the show. How are you?
Fine, thank you, and thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Just a quick introduction about how I was introduced to Sunil. And Tim said Sunil is a super builder, super entrepreneur, building the thing called Instant. And then I was like, okay, that's cool. And I had a quick call with Sunil, and he said, Jeff, I have built six companies and exited a few. And the last company, Socure,
Okay.
value at $5 billion on the last round. And I'm building my sixth one. And then my jaw was probably on the ground, but you know what? I had to keep the conversation going. So I am super excited to put you on the mic and have you tell your story.
Thanks so much. I've been a serial entrepreneur. Uh, I started my career off not really going into entrepreneurship. I was raised by parents that wanted me to fit into the cogwheel. So I spent the first half of my career working as a systems architect. My background is in security and IT risk, and I basically spent a lot of my time consulting and working in Fortune 500 companies the first half of my career. Um, and I basically went into kind of startups quite by accident when I ended up moving out to the US to be with my brother, who I hadn't seen for many years because I had lived abroad. After moving out here and getting introduced to the founders of a startup called Netegrity, where we created over the course of 7 years this notion of single sign-on, the ability for people to sign into their office applications with one ID and password. That was my kind of foray into startups, working in that company, servicing about 800 customers through the lifetime there. And we took that company public in 2001. Barry Bykoff and Deepak Taneja were the founders of that company. But it taught me a lot about startups. And I, realized that I really did not want to go back into corporate life, working in very large companies and sterile organizations. Yeah. And I love the culture of startups. So that's the thing that got me in. And since then, I've been operating startups in the kind of identity, risk, and compliance space. And I'd kind of spent a lot of time working in the market to understand it, to get a sense of where the technology is going. And I tend to do a lot of market research before I start my companies. My most recent one, as you stated, is a business called Socure, which basically created a platform to verify people's identities online, and to prevent fraud and to make sure they were compliant from a KYC perspective. Socure has grown over the past 11, 12 years now, basically protecting and verifying the identities of customers across 70% of all fintechs in the United States. So as I grew that company, to the point where we were kind of like a rocket ship, and it was repeatable sales and there's a path to IPO, I basically looked at ways that we could try to accelerate market capture. And I'd seen some of the problems along the way in terms of how businesses were managing their fraud while they were buying tools like Socure. I, kind of told my board I kind of want to pursue this solution to this problem, and I want to start a new company because they weren't very keen on kind of rocking the boat, especially as Socure was growing. And I made the difficult decision to hand over the baton to my colleague, Tom Timo, who I brought in. Tom and I worked together in a business called In Integrity, in fact. And he's a sales-oriented CEO with a focus on growing the company, and he took over for me, and I left to start Instant, which for your insurance audience, insurance-focused audience, is a new insurance business. It basically allows companies to shift the fraud losses that they would otherwise hold on their own balance sheet or in treasury capital reserves. So Instant is the first AI fraud loss insurance platform. We're kind of a SaaS technology provider to businesses, enabling them to shift or transfer risk from a variety of fraud that happens when they run their retail operations. They allow consumers to sign up for products and services. So that's kind of the summary of what brought me here. I've meandered over the years in different types of startups. I've operated startups in marketing, in security, and now in risk and compliance.
You give me the macro, right? I'm going to compartmentalize it and then go back. I have another monitor I'm staring at, and I'm just going through LinkedIn experience.
Sure.
And while I'm going through your LinkedIn experience, and this is like pretty incredible for anybody who want to go see it. Make sure you go follow Sunil on LinkedIn, Chief Architect, Technical Leader, Cisco, right? So some of these titles that you have.
Yeah.
And then you know LinkedIn allow people to put recommendations.
Sure.
Ron, the guru, Sunil, smartest guy I've ever met. Dominic Paul, VP of Major Account Calix. Sunil is technologist who understands the benefit of value. And I'm just going through each one of the recommendations about you. And some of these things are the best architect in the world, the best technical mind in the security world. Like, these are big words. So can you go back in the beginning? And I hate to do this. Like, I just want our audience to understand a little bit of who you are.
Sure.
At what point did you think you had a gift that was a little bit more than the average Joe? Like, everybody have these IT roles, they climb the corporate ladders. But at one point, do you think you realize, hey, I'm different. I have a skill set and I have a different drive. I have a different skill set.
I always, like I said, being raised by Asian parents and stuff, you're kind of, you've got a work ethos, and you're raised to fit in a cogwheel. And I spent most of my career kind of working as cogwheels in large enterprises, but just my own personality, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I'm actually the most talkative introvert you've probably met. It's something as a skill I picked up, but I would never keep my mouth shut, and I would always complain about stuff in organizations, and I wouldn't care if it was a CEO I was speaking to of some multi-million-dollar company. So one of the skills I had was always putting the technology second and putting the customer first, and to always look at it from their perspective. And so when I worked as a consultant and as an architect and stuff, I would go to these large organizations. Most of them are Fortune 500 global companies. They're massive. I've actually worked with people like Jack Welch and stuff personally, GE. I got to meet and work with like some really amazing people and learn about the process that they used and how they kind of to adopt technology and how they kind of looked at technology as an enabler. And I quickly realized that no one really gives a shit about the technology itself. It's just a mechanism for them to solve the problem. And sometimes the solution could be to not use technology, to throw people at the problem, or to throw money at the problem. And because I kind of practice a career in security, it's a cross-cutting domain. So I started off in network security, which is pretty hardcore stuff, system administration, that type of stuff, and then progressed to application security. And in deploying security solutions throughout my career, I came to see how these different applications work and how these organizational units operate in silos, how they interact. So I saw the business problem. And one of the things I cultivated was the ability to speak in business speak and in business concepts and not in technology terms to business people in order to help them solve problems. And then I could, turn around and there could be a technical person and I would geek out with that person because I'm pretty technically adept. In the last 30 plus years I've been working, I still write code. I worked as an architect. So, I've worked from everything from databases and managing them to system administration and infrastructure to product development to post-sale support to pre-sales to sales and marketing. I've kind of done that in various different roles across different companies over the years. And I've kind of cultivated those talents so that when it came to building some of the solutions I've built in my companies, I kind of had a perspective of both the business side of the world as well as the technical side of the world. I think often in a lot of startups you have a business-focused, business-minded or operations-minded founder, and then you have a technical founder. And a lot of investors, I kind of jokingly say this because I'm brown. A lot of investors always put me into the technical hat. But my strength is actually on the business side of things and how to bring that down to the technology. I do not really find technology in itself that challenging. I think technology kind of makes sense, and I'm able to simplify complex technology in my head in order to explain it to business people, which I had to do throughout my career. So that I would say is a skill that I've honed.
I rarely hear the founders say, I am a founder, I run a company, I put the company together, and I still code. The last part, I still code, is not something I hear every day.
Yeah, I think it's important to stay grounded with what's happening because technology, as you know, changes so fast now. It's every 6 months there's a new AI something or the other, and there's a lot of smoke. And it helps to remain grounded to know what is real and what is hype.
So you guys, your company, your newest company, Instant, fits in a lot of different buckets. I mean, right off the bat, it's insurtech. Right off the bat, it's fintech. And then, if you were talking about the latest buzzword of fundraising world, right? You guys qualify in that AI bucket, and you guys qualify in the security bucket, right? There's a lot of money behind securities, especially cybersecurity, right? You guys literally crossing 4 intersections of all things technology and changing to improve the world. So that is pretty cool because then you get to go to a lot of different conferences to tell people about your product.
It's a good thing and it's a curse. The hardest thing in startups and in most businesses is simplifying the message, simplifying the goal, simplifying the mission. So when we start off, we have all sorts of crazy ideas and convoluted things, but making that message simple and iterating constantly, simplify and improve, that's really difficult and time consuming. Iterating to that simplest explanation of something, and often that takes some time to do.
Gotcha. Then ask you, when was that time that you sat there in your room or driving, you thought about this problem that led you to the idea of launching Instant? Yeah. What was that one single problem that you experienced? You're like, somebody got to go solve this problem. Thank you for all your support to our channel. Here is a quick word from our sponsor. Please click on the link below in the comment section to sign up for a demo with Track AI.
What if your insurance sales conversations could work harder for you? Meet Track, your AI-powered conversation intelligence partner. Track automatically captures and analyzes every customer interaction, providing instant call summaries, risk analysis, and AI-driven coaching insights. Say goodbye to manual note-taking and hello to more selling time. Track handles the admin work while you handle the revenue. Fully integrated with your favorite platforms. Plus, get custom AI analysis tailored to your unique business needs. Transform your sales team's performance with Track. Visit track.ai today.
Click the link in the description below to schedule a demo with Track today.
Often when you experience a problem firsthand, you get a good view into what the pain points are. So in this particular instance, I was selling really good screwdriver for stopping fraud, which is the way I describe Socure, for verifying people's identities. So Socure is sold into businesses' risk and compliance toolboxes to verify people and to stop fraudsters. So as I was selling that, and as I saw how these tools were implemented, I realized that most businesses are constantly trading off their top line growth to keep the cost of fraud down. Meaning, if a business really grew at the rate they wanted to, and they opened the mouth of the faucet or the top of the funnel, and they said yes to more customers, they would also be inviting in more fraud. So most businesses end up trading off top line growth to keep fraud under control. And I felt, well, businesses shouldn't have to keep making this trade-off, especially given the fact that the problem is kind of a collective problem, because the fraudsters are attacking hundreds of institutions simultaneously with automation tools to spray and pray with tens of thousands of stolen IDs and fake IDs to try establishing accounts, etc. So, everyone shares kind of the common nature of the problem, and yet everybody tries to solve the problem in silos. And in most businesses, if you take a bank as an example, the risk management team inside the checking and savings side of the bank operates kind of in its own world from the risk management team and the operating in the loan department or the credit side of the bank, because they have different products, different risk profiles, etc. So in the same institution, you have these kind of independent silos. And so my thought was there has to be a better way that can pull this problem out of the hands of these individual silos, and where we can pool all of this risk and deal with this risk like we deal with lots of other risks. And given what I'd seen and learned trying to fight different types of fraud with Socure and the algorithms we built, the technology that we built, I knew, even when I started Socure, that machine learning, AI, and kind of all the latest developments and being able to crunch data at scale in the cloud in real time would prove beneficial in improving the outcomes for problem spaces like fraud. So I've proven that out with Socure, and now I'm trying to prove out a different thing, which is that this is an insurable problem, and that while businesses can go about managing this problem like they always have done with their own technology and tools, they can now complement that with a bit of insurance so that they can choose to grow at the rate they desire. And while fraud is inevitable, the losses no longer have to be. Our technology layer, a thin layer of technology, allows the unique pricing and transfer of that risk, which was not possible before. And so, we want to let your audience know that they don't have to deal with fraud and fraud losses in those operational silos like they traditionally have been doing. They can now use this new product that we're launching. And, you said we are insurtech and fintech. Yeah, we're kind of a mix of both. We're a SaaS technology platform that enables the transfer of risk, that enables the pricing of that risk. And so we have an MGU/MGA, we're a licensed compliant entity inside the SaaS business, where we've developed the algorithm to do the underwriting, which we've had vetted by the actuarial teams of some of the world's largest insurance companies and brokers. And that allows us to price the risk. And then the technology that we provide allows us to transfer the risk. So the business model itself, I had to kind of think of from scratch. I had to think of unique moats to build that business was not easy to replicate. So it took some time and thinking in order to execute this business. In fact, it's taken us about 4 years to develop the technology to a point and prove it out to a point that we have data that we could prove out to the insurance partners, the largest insurance companies in the world, that this risk transfer mechanism can work. So this business has taken essentially 4 years to bake, to be able to do, and now we're taking it to the next level. So it's definitely unique. It's different from the stuff I've done in the past in this space, and I think from the feedback we're getting from customers and partners, this is very exciting for everybody.
Yeah, cyber losses and data breach is it's a massive problem and growing every single day faster and faster. So
that problem is not going to go away anytime soon.
You see insurance carriers running out and you guys are running in. So I always believe if you find a solution to people's problem, you're going to become successful.
You've got to build technology to solve the problem, not the other way around. Cyber liability is a huge problem. It keeps getting worse. More and more of our data gets stolen. I decided to address that issue as well in the solution. So as you said, we span lots of different things. So for every identity, every customer, we verify and insure. Based on the customer's the business's acceptance criteria. We also provide a reusable identity for those individuals. We call it multi-pass, but it's based on an open standard. But with this pass that's generated by the system and passed back to the consumer and stored away in their mobile device, in their banking applications, etc. Sorry about my cat there. The fact that the businesses no longer have to hold that customer data themselves, and they can essentially decentralize and push that data out securely to their customers, actually reduces their overall loss liability to cybercrime. Basically, there's no point in a hacker breaking into an organization to steal customer data because our data will no longer be centrally stored.
I said decentralized data is not a word you hear every day. Decentralized financing, decentralized this and that, but not decentralized data.
Yeah, so the nice thing is the standards have matured. So there's a new standard that came out last year called verifiable credentials. Another standard, the W3C ratified, called decentralized ID, a protocol. The combination of which you can now generate this completely interoperable digital pass, which contains all the information about you that you've presented to that business when you first signed up for some product, and that they've verified about you. So once it's verified, it can be then encrypted and stored into this digital document. And that digital document can be signed with a key pair that belongs only to you and another key pair that belongs to the issuer of that identity. And that identity can be sent to you. So now with the possession of that ID, you can go to any business that can accept that ID, and the ID acceptance, again, is based on open standards. Anyone can accept it. When that ID is accepted by some business, everything the business needs to know about you is provided in that ID with your consent. If you do not want to give them some piece of information, you do not have to give them consent, and they won't be able to decrypt that piece of information. The other thing is that the business can verify that the ID is non-repudiated to the individual who's presenting the ID. So they know this ID has not been stolen and presented by somebody who stole my ID. They can also get the proof that the ID has not been tampered with. All of that's cryptographically made possible in the standard. So using this standard, these IDs will now allow us to truly port who we are, with the business having the assurance that this ID has been verified to some degree of assurance, level of assurance of risk, to some standard. And the business, with Instant anyways, will also get the benefit that they will be protected from any kind of fraud loss if they were to accept the customer on the basis of that ID. So here you have the ability to do risk shifting, as well as privacy or consent-centric data use, where the power is given back out to the consumer who owns their identity. And that's beneficial to the business as a whole, because not only do they have less risk and liability and compliance burden as a result, but they can also eliminate customer friction. Usually in the rank order of things that a CEO or a chief revenue officer wants in a company, they want growth, they want to be compliant, they want to reduce cost, and then they want to reduce customer friction. And everyone talks about reduction in customer friction. But with this new technology, you and I as consumers no longer have to sign up more than once anywhere. We can just present the pass and get in. We don't need passwords to log in anymore. So this is definitely groundbreaking as a technology. The fact that it's standardized has allowed a lot of private and public sector to collaborate. So the federal government is working on projects right now. Department of Homeland Security is working on projects for digital passports with verifiable credentials. So it's exciting times to be in this space. We've built all of that into the solution we created to make it future-proof, and we're not even charging any money for all of this capability. We just want the people on the platform to get the benefit of the insurance protection, and then they get all of these additional SaaS features, like being KYC compliant with the ID and being able to essentially represent the ID for future products and services that the customer may want to use. All of that's provided for free.
Wow, that is a lot to take in there.
It is.
Who are your target customers, for instance?
So we're going to market in the financial services industry. So we primarily target banks, credit unions, and fintechs, lenders, really any business that's regulated that needs to ensure that their customers are who they say they are, not going to pose any kind of fraud risk, and any business that's ultimately facing fraud losses. Our business is to shift those losses and pool those losses in the insurance market. So anyone who wants trustworthy customers and anyone who's suffering from fraud losses, come and look us up.
So there's a lot of gray, right? Everything is gray. Right now, there's all these crypto firms, crypto holding companies, custodians, apps. Let's just start with Coinbase, right? And custodian banks, right? There's a couple national digital banks out there that is in the forefront of holding crypto.
Yeah.
Do you guys work with them? Because the word who's regulated, right, is a very great thing in the crypto world.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge in the crypto world is the technology was created to put anonymity and privacy first. But anti-money laundering kind of goes in the face of some of that, because you need to know who the sender and the recipient are in the transaction. And you need to know they're not sanctioned entities, et cetera. So the crypto world is, kind of started off with the technology chasing for a problem to solve. And ultimately, it's landed in a point where it's got some legitimate use cases, and then it's also a commodity to trade. So, Coinbase and other companies have to be compliant with KYC regulation according to the federal regulators. And they've been investing in a lot of technologies themselves to vet people setting up exchange accounts or providing crypto wallets on the point of ingress. I think that regulations aren't going to go away. It's probably going to get more stringent. Now, CFPB has proposed for financial institutions a new rule for open banking and portability of information and data. So all of this is going to lead to more compliance and more fraud preventative risk management needs. And so my thought is that using an AI-enabled platform to take on that burden, as opposed to continuing throwing people and resources, your own internal resources at the problem, is not going to be as effective as using an AI-managed solution.
So if your customer are banks and credit unions and fintech wallets and companies, they have big losses.
Yeah.
Big losses means you're trying to step in to solve a big problem.
Yes.
I'm sure you have looked at this, and maybe it's in your slide deck, company white paper thesis. What is the total market available for you guys to conquer? What does that market size look like?
Yeah, fraud globally takes about, I believe, 3% of global GDP. It's a huge word, fraud. The specific types of fraud we're targeting and we're insuring for today has a total available market of, not total available market, rather, service available market of about $30 billion. It's growing at about 28% compounded annual growth rate year on year. You'll see reports from LexisNexis, Experian, and others talking about the rate of growth of the fraud industry. If you look at first-party fraud, which is the type of fraud committed by ordinary, everyday, real people who take out loans and other lines of credit with the intention of never paying it back, that's called first-party fraud in the industry. According to Federal Reserve, between 10 and 25% of every dollar of consumer loan receivable, so every loan payment for every dollar, the industry writes off 10 to 25% of that dollar off in first-party fraud. So 25 cents of that buck is of every loan is written off to fraud. Just imagine how large those losses are. So under Basel III Accords in 2008, when the financial institutions melted down, they kind of made an agreement to have banks hold capital reserves against the stresses they may be exposed to, financial stresses they may be exposed to on a capital ratio, risk ratio basis based on how much risk they had and whether it was collateralized or not, et cetera. Some of the largest banks have literally tens to hundreds of billions of dollars, billions with a B, tied up in treasury reserves. So being able to convert some of those reserves to working capital, to be able to shift the losses off their balance sheets for these fraud losses, which, as you rightfully said, with some of the large banks are in the hundreds of millions of dollars, is no easy task. And this is why it took us about 3.5 years beyond the year of developing, initially developing the product to bring this to market, because to get the capacity to shift this problem in the market is not easy. And we started off on a warranty basis, holding the balance sheet risk initially on our own books to prove out the technology, which we did. That has enabled us to become an insurance business and get the world's largest insurance companies to back our business.
Now that you said that, I'm curious. You got to have some serious relationship with some of the biggest reinsurance on the back end. And even though you have done so well, but do you still use venture capital money for investment injections into your companies? Or since you have built so many, you're just now bootstrapping them?
Yeah, I mean, I bootstrap, but I've taken some venture dollars in the seed round, primarily because I want to get this to scale. And so I've bootstrapped it. It's not an easy business to build just because of the time it takes to get the data to prove out to the insurance businesses that this is viable. So, we've gotten the business to a point now that we've got the partners, we've got the insurance stuff baked. And so I'm in the market now to go close a Series A to take us into the next 2 years. And we expect to break even going into the third quarter of next year.
Wow. Man, a lot of fun things ahead of you. So your company right now is growing. And what type of people do you look for when you grow your company? What percentage of people do you think you hire personally versus like just having recruiters to look for the right candidate on the job ad?
So from day one, in my startups anyways, I've gone by the ethos of no individual making the decision to hire or fire. So we do the hiring and the firing via committee. HR is always a stakeholder of the committee, and then the department that's doing the hiring or firing, obviously they'll be part of that, and there'll be some exec management, and then some general team members just to get a cultural fit. So we try to turn the evaluation into something a bit more objective than individuals having feelings and that also leads to nepotism and kind of culture creep with little cliques and stuff. So to avoid that, we try to use kind of the team to make the decision as to whether someone we're hiring is going to be right. And we look for not just obviously the skill set, but we look for the cultural fit. The cultural stuff is less tangible, but it is much more important because often you can learn skills, but you cannot learn culture. Often it's the way people are. So I care about running a mini United Nations type culture in my company. I like to have gender and racial and other diversity. Good ideas come from everywhere. And I like people who are not afraid to fail. So I look for certain characteristics in the employees. And I'm always the last person to interview anyone we hire. We always go through the process in the committee. And once the committee gives a green light that, yes, everyone thinks this person is going to be a fit, that's when I do my interview with the individual. And I try to speak with every individual we hire. At some point, as we scale, that's going to become impractical for me to do. But until then, I'm going to keep doing it.
Tough question. In a year from now, when you come back as a guest of the podcast, what are some of the comfortable goals and uncomfortable goals a year from now that you'll be talking about?
Revenue is definitely going to be one of them. We always plan for the revenue and we typically miss it in the earlier years till everything becomes more predictable and forecasting becomes more reliable. So revenue growth is definitely going to be one of it. And the other is going to be the lessons we've learned pioneering a new insurance product that we're bringing to the world. We're truly doing something unique that's not been done before. And the technology itself is actually pretty sophisticated beyond the surface that you see to give a lot of utility into the future. So it's exciting, and I hope to have great news in terms of the traction in the market. I usually let the customers do the talking, but I'm happy to be on your podcast and do some boasting. But the idea is that we'll have hit some significant revenues and established a new risk management product, a risk management technology for fraud, which affects every business. We'll have essentially brought something new into the world.
That's amazing. What are the events you're going to coming up? Any events? Are you going to InsurTech Connect?
We are not going to be at we'll be at InsurTech Connect next year. This year, we're going to Risk Live, which is happening in Nashville. We were going to go to Money 2020. We decided to give that a miss this year for the first time. It's just become too large and noisy, in my opinion. And then we're going to FinTech, which is Meetup, which is happening in the first quarter of next year. And this year, Finovate Fall, this month in New York. We'll be doing some stuff around that as well.
Nice. I am going to put all of your links in the comment section. And so our audience can make sure they connect with you and follow your journey and follow your companies, all your companies. And, thank you very much for joining the podcast today. And I am excited to watch your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, Jeff. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.